Hello and welcome to this week's Wisdom Wednesday. I'm Dr. Susanna Alter.
And I'm Dr. Ben.
And we're both naturopathic doctors who support individuals in reversing disease and reclaiming optimal health through whole food plant-based nutrition and mind-body medicine.
That we are, and that we do. But, we've kind of been reflecting on that. And the fact is that you do that. You reverse your conditions through whole food plant-based eating and understanding how the brain and body cooperate. So it's really empowerment and inspiration and connecting with that innate ability that we all have, which is the Wednesday episodes where, let's face it, it all kind of starts in the realms of our thinking and beliefs and mindset and understanding. And that leads us to behave and act and choose. And when we understand how things are happening, then we tend to behave and act and choose in accordance with our highest health destiny. So today we're talking on the podcast about OverResponsibility, how to maybe avoid that, what being or feeling over-responsible might lead to, and why we may not want to go there. But before we do, we've got some kind of new and important announcements that we've never announced before. So you are some of the first lucky people to know what's going on in the Alter Health sphere of realm of doings.
Oh, I thought you were doing announcements today.
Well, I'm already just blabbering, but okay, I'll continue I just had to take a breath. But the first thing is shift. Shift happens. Shifts happen. Shifts are happening. And we're shifting. We're feeling it. Maybe you are too. And one of the ways that we're feeling this shift is in the migration, the turning, the evolution, the change of direction away from kind of what you might say conventional social media platforms are. And we've loved our Facebook community. We do love our Facebook community. And we also love free speech and expression. Not to say that we're feeling totally censored, but we want to live in a world where there's a little bit more freedom, a little bit more openness, a little bit less of that kind of feeling like we're all being watched and controlled. So we are shifting. We do have a Telegram channel at t.me/alterhealth. The other thing that we're really excited to be shifting to is a platform called Locals, locals.com, alterhealth.locals.com. And this is going to eventually, it is going to transition into taking the place of our plant-based and stress-free Facebook group, a place for people to collaborate, for us to share and communicate and kind of run some stuff and challenges and stay inspired and focused in the direction of that health empowerment that is so important. So, woo! Shift happens. And thank you for taking the shift with us. So check us out on Telegram and Locals.
Yeah. And I know it might seem different and scary, maybe.
It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to
No, it's not.
peeling the Band-Aid off very slowly. And then once we're done, it's like we won't even know. We're like, oh, we're healed.
We'll be loving our Locals community so much we won't even be missing the Facebook group.
Yeah.
So anyway, that is happening. So you'll see us mentioning those platforms more often. But we're gonna make sure we make this transition in plenty of time so everyone can hop on over. But anyway, let's dive into today's topic.
Yeah, because you think what you want, you feel what you want. You can be like, oh, those alters, blah, 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 blah. Well, I am not responsible for how you perceive me. And that's kind of the topic of today's, I'm just kind of being snarky, but that's just the topic of today's conversation about avoiding that over-responsibility.
Yeah. The tendency to feel responsible for other people's well-being, other people's experiences, other people's reactions, right? All these false ideas that we can ever really be responsible for other people's reactions to things, right? But really, I think the kind of theme I wanted to really focus on is also mostly taking over responsibility for other people's well-being. And I mean, the reason why I wanted to bring this up this week is because I just had kind of an eye-opening experience of where I was doing this in my life. And it kind of shocked me how much this was in my blind spot.
Well, please share more. Where was this happening?
Well, really, it was happening in the context of my relationship with clients, where I felt like it was really my duty to heal them, even though I know very much so intellectually that that's not my responsibility as a naturopathic doctor, never was my responsibility to heal someone, because they heal themselves, their bodies heal themselves. Really, our responsibility is to show up and teach and guide and inspire and empower, but it's not to actually heal. And I realized how much mental energy I was putting into this attachment of like, oh, I gotta make sure this person gets there. I gotta make sure this person gets there. And I just realized how draining that was for me energetically. And what it also does, this is the big kicker. Whenever we're in the situation where we are taking over responsibility for someone else, we're not acknowledging their power. We're not acknowledging their journey, their wisdom, their innate intelligence. I mean, I don't like the word intelligence because of course I see everyone as intelligent, but it's so, it's so subconscious how from this place of wanting to help, right? We want to help, we want to do, we want to serve, but in doing so, we can actually create a situation where we're taking away an opportunity for someone to really find that deeper empowerment on their own. And this cannot, it's not only in the context of healer and client, it's also in the context of partnership, in the context of parenting, in the context of everything. Yeah. And so it's been really in my face recently. And honestly, as soon as I observed that tendency, all this energy freed up because I realized how silly it was for me to even think that I was responsible for a person's well-being or flourishment or whatever word I want to put on it.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I hear you saying, Susanna, is that it comes from this really innocent place of just wanting to serve, wanting to be our best. And I've been pondering that innocent place where that kind of over responsibility might stem from. And not that we like to do this or need to do this, but if I were to trace that back, if you will, to kind of a feeling, a state of being where I feel like, oh, I feel responsible for how I'm perceived. I feel responsible for the outcome of that interaction or relationship. I feel responsible for that person's health or well-being or peace of mind. It all kind of, for me, kind of stems back to this inner, like inherent misbelief, misunderstanding, misidentification of myself being less than perfect and less than worthy myself. And wanting to, in some way innocently, like kind of compensate and kind of like, oh, but I can help her, I can help him, I can be nice there, I can be perfect there. So I'm good and like deserving of our place in this life, on this planet, in the world. And the fact is, we don't need to earn our place in the world. We deserve it inherently. That's why we're here. So that's kind of like the neutralization, the medicine, the dissolution of that whole windy road of misbelief kind of comes back to that just pure fact. Mm-hmm. But I was going to say something else as well, and I totally don't know what it was.
I just find it so fascinating how intellectually we can understand a concept and yet still, not be applying it in, like I said, it could completely be in our blind spot. And what my experience is of this is that the more we start to see some of our tendencies that maybe don't serve us and also don't serve others, the more sensitive we become to seeing these, it's like I have this visualization of just like we peeled back another layer of like we're able to really see on a deeper level these thought processes. And that's a gift. That's a gift. Like, and in doing so, in becoming more sensitive to these thought processes that don't serve us, they start to feel more uncomfortable to the point where we really have to do something about it. Meaning we don't actually have to do something about it. We just have to let go of those thought processes that don't serve us.
Yeah. So true. And we've got a great comment / question / inquiry from Stephanie. And she says, and this reminds me actually of another thought stream that I was going on that I forgot. But Stephanie said, we cannot take on the burden of someone else's thoughts / feelings, but we do have to take responsibility for our own actions and how those actions influence others. I'm just going to put in might. Actions might influence others because they might or might not influence others, right? Where do we draw the line? So where do we kind of draw the line? And what I was kind of thinking about is how, and we're not parents, we don't have any children, but
we have cats.
We got cats.
Very different. I know.
But
it's taking care of a living being.
Yeah, and I know that sometimes parents are blamed for having quote unquote bad children. And sometimes parents like, oh, you've got such a great kid. You must be such a great parent. Like that, I don't know why that came to mind, but like the responsibility that parents have for kind of the quote unquote outcome of their child, which of course, I'm not saying that like some awful parent who's just abusive, whatever, kind of, is like off the hook, right? But so the question is, and the question that I hear Stephanie asking, what is actually the responsibility and where do we draw that line and how do we draw that line? And to me, the responsibility of a parent, the responsibility of a healer, doctor in relationship with a client, responsibility in any sort of relationship is to be unconditionally loving. To be and recognize and express the unconditional love and acceptance to the best of our human ability at any given point in time. And that is like really messy because love spews out in all sorts of ways and we do our best. But I think that that's kind of if we were to strive for, or, where do we draw the line? Draw the line in love, draw the line with love. And because ultimately it's like, if that's the guidance, if that's what we're focused towards, then it doesn't matter what we do, what we say, what we do, it matters how we do it. Or I wouldn't even say that. It doesn't matter what we do or how we do it. It matters where it comes from, and we all have that taste, sensation, feeling of something coming from love versus something coming from fear or judgment or whatever it is. And we just kind of use that as our guide moment to moment in these relationships. That's my kind of orientation.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I know you wanted to keep this call short, Dr. Ben, but I feel like we could dig into this much more. I mean, looking at Stephanie's question.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting because I feel as though in bringing this topic up, you know, I was thinking of really kind of focusing on this idea of the tendency that people might have to take on like other people's, you know, take on responsibility for really other people's outcomes and well-being and stuff.
Right.
But here's this deeper question of taking self-responsibility. I feel like that's a whole nother topic, really.
Totally. And I guess maybe I'll just point out again, I see it in your thinking and in your words, Stephanie, about we cannot take on the burden of someone else's thoughts or feelings, but we do have to take responsibility for our own actions. Period.
Yeah.
We do have to take responsibility for our own actions. Period. But the second part, and how those actions influence others, maybe not so much of a period. Maybe that's the gray area, right? We do our best, but oh my gosh, I've done my best and felt very in integrity a number of times, not a number of times, but one particular time comes to mind where I've done my best, feeling in integrity, in love, you know, and that wasn't received very well. You've probably been there too, where you've done your best, you know, maybe it's on the road and you're driving and oh my gosh, remember when I was driving and that guy comes flying by, almost runs me off the road with a big middle finger out the window. And I'm like, what the heck did I do? Mm-hmm. Like, I had no idea. Mm-hmm. So the fact is, I did something awful in his worldview, right? I did something awful from where he was driving his truck, but I was absolutely doing my best and in full integrity with my driving on the road in that moment. So I think the period after we take responsibility for our own actions and behaviors, do the best that we can, and how they influence others is always and forever out of our control. We do our best to leave a positive influence on others. You know, why wouldn't we? Of course, that's like the good in humanity always strives to do that, back to that people-pleasing tendency. But we got to create that separation of what's actually fundamentally true and real and accessible, and not leave ourselves with these false pretenses and false unfulfilled expectations that we need to let ourselves be perfectly received by everyone all the time, because we are not in control of that, period, ever.
Yeah. And actually, I want to share one more story because it kind of ties all of this together, which is the story of how I used to feel in my relationship with Ben, where I really wanted Ben to, like, if I was ever feeling sad or upset about something, I wanted him to basically come and console me and wrap his arms around me and say, everything's okay. And sometimes he does. But, you know, but Ben actually identified this pattern. And Ben kind of saw, like, oh, Susanna has this tendency to always like rely on others when she feels sad or she feels upset. And, you know, if Ben felt responsible for my feeling at all times, you know, like wanting me to be happy all the time, then what he would do is probably say, oh no, Susanna, it's okay. How can I cheer you up? How can I make it better? And what it would leave me in is a position of still feeling dependent on him to make me feel happy.
What is that called again? Codependence?
Right.
Codependence, codependent relationship.
What is so cool, which I didn't see in the beginning, but what you saw is like, you know, I'm not responsible for Susanna's sadness or upset. So like, I'm gonna let her find her peace on her own, because I acknowledge that she's got all that she needs to find that.
And some people call it soulmates. You know, some people call those kind of relationships where we're supporting the authentic evolution of consciousness and awareness and acknowledgement of our true nature in another being, like those are the soulmate relationships. In other words, those people who trigger us, those people who flip us off in trucks, zooming past us, trying to force us off the highway, those people who are really pushing us to uncomfortable places within ourselves are our soulmates that are supporting our awakening of consciousness.
Yes. And what I want to say about, this exact example is that what Ben didn't do was take that responsibility of me and my experience and my well-being. That left space for me to step into my power and to really find that my happiness doesn't come from anyone outside of me. My happiness is inside of me. And, the only thing that takes me away from that piece is my thinking about, whatever. Am I thinking about, the stressful, thinking about the just the monkey mind, right? And so I love this example because it brings together that you weren't taking, you weren't falling into the over responsibility. And now I see how my upset, I'm taking responsibility for my experience. There's the self-responsibility piece, which is, yes, like what Stephanie was saying, taking responsibility for our experience. That is what we're responsible for, not other people's experiences. So that's all of it.
And I would just like to end with a thought that I have actually frequently. I have this thought about, could you imagine living in a world where everyone was so self-centered, so selfish, that all they did was take exquisite, unconditionally loving care for themselves? And we knew those authentic boundaries, and who was responsible for our well-being and our health. I think that would be kind of cool. The fact is we don't live in that world. The fact is we do live in community. And the fact is that our energies commingle and merge, and we have these souls as well that are on a journey of learning, growing, and evolving in consciousness. And it gets kind of messy. But I bring up that fact because being what we might refer to as that selfish, self-centered, just kind of taking care of yourself and really protecting your energy, whatever you want to call it, that is not in any way selfish. That allows humanity to flourish in the end. But we also are in relationships. So it's not it's so paradoxical, as with most things in the universe. So anywho, rambling, and thanks for being with us as always on another Wisdom Wednesday. Just another recap of those announcements from the beginning. We are starting to shift things away from conventional social media platforms into Telegram, t.me/alterhealth, and also the locals platform, alterhealth.locals.com, where we'll be fostering more community and collaboration. So thanks as always for being here. And we'll see you guys next time.
Bye for now.
Peace and love.